Hey, good evening. And I also would like to thank my counterparts here for supporting the event, because without them, I think we wouldn't have beer and all the other great choices that we have. So I just want to say thank you to those guys. Yay for beer. Yeah, me and Squee, we like beer. Sorry, wrong joke. So I'm Dave Helmly. I've been with Adobe working towards my 25th year, and 28-year user of Premiere. So I know all the good things, I know all the warts, and we can talk about whatever we want to talk about tonight and just get it out. Because one of the things that I like when I get in to do some of these demos is really just to tell you how the product's being developed, and it's really being developed by a lot of the field team that I'm on that report up to engineering, and through those channels, and we just get that input from you guys. So if you've been watching Premiere over the last number of years, you've just seen it skyrocket, and it's mainly due to us just in the field just saying, you know what, if we don't do these things, this large group of customers will not use it. Right? So over the years, we've been just working on that and banging that out every time. So everything we do is customer driven, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about that tonight. The other thing is the field team that I'm on. There's about 12 of us worldwide, and we've been together for 15 plus years at least. We actually have a lot of features that are our own personal features that made it into each of these releases, and I'll talk about some of that tonight. And again, we get that because of the customers that we work with trust us. So we want to hear a lot about things that you guys want, and I promise I will take that stuff back to engineering. So there's a couple things I'm going to talk about tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk about Premiere. I want to talk a little bit about some stuff going on in After Effects. I want to talk about some mobile editing stuff and get some of the topics out there so they might add to some of the Q&A and some of the panel discussions we might have tonight. So let me get Premiere a chance to load up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out, just to get this one out of the way, I'm going to start out with After Effects. So. And I'm on a 2017 Mac, and I'll tell you why in a minute, because I like to kind of use a machine that is very popular and out there as far as specs go. I'm going to talk about improving performance and all the good types of things. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this new feature that we have built into After Effects, which also affects Premiere users, Content Aware Fill. If you guys had a chance to use that, how many people out there use After Effects pretty routinely? Excellent. Now, how many people, and just be honest, would consider themselves, novice After Effects users? Like, you know how to use it, you can modify things. Okay, and everyone else is intermediate? Pretty much, okay, and then everyone else is pro. Got it. So, or the beer is having its effect. So, if I come down, just move this timeline down. This is a friend of mine, Devin, shoots these really cool videos. And I wanted to run a test through this new Content Aware feature that we have for After Effects, where I've got this orange ball. And you notice there's an orange ball going over an orange shirt. And for those of you that don't know what this does, you'll see in just a second. Now, when I talk about what our field team does when we work with customers, one of the things I heard for years was, can you just make After Effects easier to use? Can you just give me a whole different version of After Effects? And of course, we've heard, can you just put After Effects in Premiere? And the answer is no, don't want to do that. So you'll be happy to know that. I don't want to make anything more complex. However, we've done a number of things. And one of the things is, as we come out with these advanced features to say, hey, Dave, can you go in there and make that ball disappear? Or, hey, I saw this TV show the other night and there was a coffee mug where it shouldn't be, or a coffee cup from Craft Services where it shouldn't be. And of course, they used this feature on there, and about 5 minutes after that was shown, it was all over the web. So let me show you how they did that. So go back to our team. Each of the features that we come out with that are just amazing, and I'll kind of give you some sneak peeks of stuff we're working on, is we have to make sure that it fits that After Effects or Premiere 101 user. Like if the feature, which we tend to do, is so complex that only the advanced, intermediate, and the high-end guys get to use it, it's a very narrow subset of what that thing can really do. This feature is a prime example for anyone that's taken an After Effects newbie class, a 101 class. You are going to learn how to grab a masking tool, make a mask, and you'll see right here I've got a mask around this ball. You're going to learn how to manually track. You're going to learn how to auto track, right, with some of the trackers that we have in there. It's not a big deal. Again, you learn that in the first class. So with this feature, I'm going to go in, I'll just say, just subtract the mask. Not a big deal. So all I've done is just track the ball, made it disappear. Now all I'm going to do is just hit this big button over here under Content Aware Fill. That's the new feature. The other thing about this feature is, how many people use Photoshop? Probably pretty much everyone, right? You already know what all these different settings do. If you've been playing around with Content Aware Fill long enough, you know what Edge Blend does and Surface and Object and all these other things. Well, all I have to do is just hit the biggest button that's available to me, and you're done. I mean, it was that fast. It's pretty incredible the way that it works. And you've seen this all over the web. You've probably seen this particular clip. I like to take it a bit further than what I see people talking about on the web, including some of our own internal marketing demos. Because what's really happening in this shot is there's a guy hanging out of the car shooting the bicyclist, right? So maybe there's a story and we need to see how hard the cyclist is working. He's determined, or I don't know, he's texting, whatever's going on the bike. And I know that I need to get a close-up, but I think it's a DJI Inspire above the guy. I need to, get a drone shot, but I need to get the drone shot without the car, right? So now I got to do a reset. I got to get in there. I got to make sure all the road's cleaned up, the shadow's in the right place, and you got to do it quick because, the sun is always running out. So with this feature, all I got to do is just run that same filter and I'm done. Right? And it's pretty fast, right? I mean, it's pretty fast the way that, that some of this stuff works. Now, if I go in and let me just punch this out again. I like to show you what's happening. There's the track. It's really no different than I was doing other than, and it's kind of a sloppy track if you're watching it. We're having to change some things because the shadow's changing, the car's changing, whatever, but that is a great example. Now, for those of you wondering, how does this Adobe magic work? I don't think it's that complicated. We've actually been doing this in After Effects for years, and my advanced After Effects people know this because we could look at before frames and after frames and do these onion skinning tricks that we had to sort of figure this thing out. All we're doing now is using our AI engine, which is called Adobe Sensei, or artificial intelligence engine, just to read ahead and read behind what's going on with frames at all times. And we just blend it and make it work. And for the most part, it really does a fantastic job. A couple other ones that are kind of fun to see. I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, people that are in production, So it's like, okay, so what can we do to get rid of this, this person? Let me just put him back in that shot there. Okay, there he is. It's just run the filter again and then he's gone. So, this is not that hard of a one to fix. I could just do a push a little bit, get in there. But at the same time, if it ruins continuity and I just want to have everything the way that I have it, it's easy enough to fix. So for little things like that. I think another one that is a good one to kind of show is this one. And that is when I'm working with lots of different vendors. I'm working with a bunch of sports companies now. It's great that SVG is supporting the event. They would know this well with their clientele. If I've got an owner of a team and I'm trying to do a spot for Mountain Dew and I'm holding a Coke product in my hand, I need to get rid of this logo because that's what the sales rep that sold that ad spot promised what was right. So it's like the whole thing has turned into a nightmare because the guy's holding the wrong can. And you'll see that we have a logo here. Well, the surface blending over here can be used for that. So all I do is just run that and it just takes the logo right out. So I can turn it off and on. Pretty easy. And of course, if you really want to work hard, you can actually put other logos back on there, which isn't really that hard either. But oh, is that right? So I don't know. Does that help? It's right here. Yeah, and definitely speak up. So let us know. We want to make sure you're. If the lights can come down, that would be awesome. So I guess we'll have more work on that. How's that?
Oh, you're projecting.
Oh, it was really just imagine, if you will. Okay, so yeah, so I think that this is a great example of when we can use something like this, and it's a no-brainer. Now, you could also, I think, 90% of the time, even just use it for previs. So rather than have some weird thing blocking it or something you're trying to do, I just say, you know what, I'm going to use this for previs, and someone who's really good, they can go take the time to do that as well. So let's take a look at a couple other ones that I think are a little harder, because this is great that in Dave's demo everything just appears to work, but there's going to be examples where we don't know what's behind the camera, like with the gal there. I don't know what's behind her dress, but I know that if I was in Photoshop and I needed to get rid of that, I know exactly how to fix that, right? I would go into Content Aware Fill. That's not particularly that hard to blend, but now there's a workflow problem that basically says, how do we get, the first frame and the last frame over to Photoshop to fix this? You just hit this other big button right over here, and it's called Create Reference Frame. So when I do that, that takes a snapshot automatically, sends it over to Photoshop, gets you in a content-aware environment, and now you're just ready to go and just get rid of her. And that now is a smart frame, for lack of a better term. I know smart frames are different with codecs and growing files, but it's a smart frame that basically, or an intelligent frame that says, I want you to reference everything after this up to the next reference frame, that's what it's supposed to look like. So I think that's pretty cool. And what the team did was to just create something called reference frame, and the more you create, it'll put a 1 and a 2 and a 3 after that. So it's pretty smart the way that it works, and I can just go in and just get rid of her. Again, that's not that complex of a shot. It looks amazing, but it's really not, because you can just do that in Photoshop. All we've done is just said, here's what I want it to look like, and you'll notice that as the camera starts to move, I can go in here and sort of watch what's going on, and it's pretty clean, So and I'll say, from what customers are telling me, 90% of the time it does what it needs to. There will be circumstances where we need to increase the smarts. The other thing is you do not have to be online to use this feature. So if you're in a lockdown environment, you've kind of phoned home, you got your license all checked out, now you're just in an environment where I can't get this out. The Adobe Sensei, the AI engine, is put in a library that we will continue to update every time we update After Effects. We'll make it smarter. So I wanted to share some of that with you. And then lastly, this sort of Game of Thrones looking shot is I think pretty, it says a lot. It says, first of all, that if I can get rid of, if you look at this, the yellow lady, the orange shirt lady, all of these people, they kind of think like, they name layers like I do. I can just keep running those passes and say, you know what, I don't have to go out and rent that, and start putting some of those people back. I don't have to go out and rent that facility. I can just go out and just say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just take that drone shot, assuming you have the ability to do that, and I'll just go in and clean it up, because it's a lot easier to do this than to try to figure out how do I rent that castle and that property all day. And I could be out there any time of day I want. So those are just some examples where I think, for one, this new feature is pretty amazing, but really what I wanted to get across to you is, we're trying to make these features available to a novice all the way up to an advanced person. The other thing is that we're, I don't know if I do I have that one in here? Correct. Well, not multiple reference. Well, it could be reference frames, depends on how much it was moving. In that particular case, no, I was just running the pass and getting. Correct. So each one of those, let me go back to that one. Yeah. Each one of those we did it as a separate pass. So you'd have to run it each time, but you could do that.
So it finds one and then you run it again.
That's right. You have to go in and track it and make sure you do that. I mean, at some point, hopefully you'll be able to go in there and do multiple and have it do it in one pass. But at this time, you just have to run that. And you can see how fast it is, right? So it's not like you're spending all day waiting for a track.
And you're able to adjust what it's doing? Or?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, most of the adjustment, I would say when you really need an adjustment, that's what the reference frame is for. You can say, this is what it should look like when I do that. In some cases, you will need a reference frame. The times you need a reference frame, 90% of the time, is when the object that you're trying to get rid of doesn't ever show me what's behind it. Either the camera, the way the camera is, I can never see what's there. So a reference frame is to say, show me what's there. So I have a better idea. But sure. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what the shot looked like. So if you just, although sorry, you can see the people. They took the flagpole out already on that shot. Sorry, go ahead.
So half of what this does, what you were showing where you removed the logo, is the tracking part. The other half is the content aware part, right?
Correct.
Are you able to use that tracking and then tag, like, say, another logo onto that? Or do you have to do that separately?
You'd have to do that separately using the After Effects tools. But you saw we kind of did a lot of that in Photoshop when we first started out with content aware fill. It's not hard to tack on something else. So even in the Game of Thrones thing, which we all know that wasn't a Starbucks mug or cup in there, it was craft services, they went back in and put one on there anyway, which I don't know why they did that, because it just helped Starbucks stock, I guess. But you can certainly do that. But there's no automatic way to do that yet.
It's good to be able to borrow that tracking too. You know?
Well, you could always borrow the tracking because they are keyframes. You can copy and paste. So I'm saying, all your After Effects tricks that you already know would apply. I was really pointing out the fact that it's available to novices, and you should be able to jump right in there and use it. So another thing we've been working pretty steadily on is this. See if I can jump down in here. Is our motion graphics template stuff. Are you guys using motion graphics templates now? Do you guys know what they are? So this is really kind of cool. So let me go ahead and launch After Effects again, because it kind of all starts with After Effects. And let me just open up this file here. No, although Motion is pretty cool product, very integrated back and forth with the NLE. But no, this tries to do a different thing and answer the question is, when are you guys going to make an easier version of After Effects? That's kind of where motion graphics templates came out of, because that's not really the right answer either. So let's just see this one. So this is a typical After Effects project, right? So for those of you that live and breathe in After Effects, you kind of see this stuff. And for others of you, you kind of know your way around After Effects. You can make changes if you need to. You'll go in there, do some spelling, do some cleanup, re-export it out as a ProRes with an alpha channel or whatever you're trying to do. But at the same time, it would be really nice if I had this ability to go in there and take that file when I'm inside of Premiere, and I'm going to go over to my my credit here, and let's just go in master credit here. I want to be able to drag and drop this particular graphic that was created inside of After Effects right inside Premiere. And you see, it's not using dynamic link. This is directly reading the After Effects file as a finished graphics package. And I can go in here and just play that out. And the performance is pretty good, right? I mean, I didn't have to render that. It's still red. We've been working with Apple and Microsoft really closely on a lot of GPU stuff and CPU stuff. So the performance is really good. If I come in here and say, okay, I like this. But as the editor, I might want to go in here. Actually, let me do a different one. I just saw that particular one. Let's see. I'm going to grab this one first. There we go. So if I come over here and I click on this, we've always had the ability to come over here and, you know, change text around. So I can come in here and say, okay, there's my text. That's pretty good. I can come in here, you know, being able to do text, not a big deal. But look at all these controls that I have in here. All these controls make After Effects available to me as a user, because all I would have done had I gone into After Effects is say, look, I'd love a rotation command to allow me to modify this graphic any way that I want to. I'm going to have a color picker to change the color of that graphic, and then come right back into here and say, let me look at that and see what that wipe now looks like as I come in here and sort of see that. And I'm going to show you when I get into After Effects that the way this works is you look over here in this panel, which has been there for a couple of releases, called Essential Graphics. If my editor says, you know what I would really like, let me go back to Premiere for a second and pose the problem. What I would really like is when I take this graphic is I want to rotate the text on an angle, maybe the same angle as the waves or whatever, and you try to go in here and you might try to rotate this, but you see my alpha channel, I'm out of the box there. So you have to go back into After Effects and fix that. Well, in After Effects, all I have to do is come over here and I could just say, let me just R for rotation, drag this up like so, call this SVVP rotation, whatever I want to. And now I have this ability to rotate that in After Effects. And then all I have to do is push this button down at the bottom and it creates an entire new graphics package. And I can then give that to the editor and say, here's your new motion graphics template. And what this is, by the way, let me do a save as. And I'm going to SVVP, because this is kind of an important thing to understand. What is it trying to do? So I can save this to a local drive. I can save it to a shared library with customers or whoever I need to. This is how you keep each other up to date with all of the latest graphics. And I come over here and say, you know, warn me if there's Adobe fonts, and I can put warnings in there if I need to. I'm going to go ahead and export this out. So now when I get outside of After Effects, let me just show you where it created that Mogert. Did I not grab that? I thought I did. SVVP dot Mogert. Oh, there it is. It named it Patty's SVB. Okay, got it. Okay, so you'll hear this term all the time in After Effects and Premiere called Mogert. Well, that's the kind of file that it creates, and I don't know how else to say that, because when I used to say that out loud, marketing would be all over me going, you can't call it a Mogert. And I'm going to be like, that's what everybody's going to call it anyway. So now everybody calls it Mogert. So what a Mogert is, so I'm going to just give you a little cheat, and I don't share this with everybody. So I'm going to come in here and just change that to a .zip, and I'm going to unzip it. And we're going to start showing you what builds this file. And you go in here, you'll see another file here called .ae graphic. You just unzip that. Little engineering trick. And you just go like, well, I'm going to show you what's at the guts. You don't have to do this. I just want to show you how it's put together. That's the project file. So you can get down to the root After Effects file. You can include video, audio, pictures, lots of null sliders to change backgrounds, anything you want to do, and I'll show you some examples of motion graphics templates you can do. And you now can just go in After Effects. I had this question this morning. File open, not file import. File open and point After Effects to the Mogert file. It will automatically unpack it and present it inside of After Effects for you. So you don't have to go to this step. But now that you understand it's a double zip file, what's the value here? The value is, if I happen to have a show and I have a different slide for different cities, I need one for France, one for Rio, one for LA, one for New York, and I just create a null slider, very easy thing to do in After Effects. I can have that inside of Premiere when I'm working on all of my different options here have different sliders here. If I'm in sports, to go back to like an SVG analogy, I can go in and say, I'm going to type in player number 13. The name comes up, all their stats come up, any of that stuff, because in After Effects, that's linked to another layer, which shows all that info. All of that you can package up inside of a motion graphics template. The other thing you can do that's really neat is if there's a change, an update to the template, all I have to do is just drag and drop that template and hold down the Alt key. I can go ahead and change that template, and I can also change any of the other ones that I want to. So if I go back in, let's grab that one again. Let me just undo that so it puts that one back. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's my key here.
So is the idea that when you make these templates, you're publishing certain parameters? Or?
You're publishing the entire After Effects project and all the logic, all the expressions. So what it really does is it says, you're an After Effects person, you need to be doing all the magic that you know how to do and not take 25 names and just be changing names all day long for a sports reel that you have to output. Let the editor do that. Let the editor figure out where to put the text. Now, you as an After Effects artist have controls over whether or not you're going to allow them to make changes like this. What I did is I know there's a font change between here and here. This is a script font. This is not. It's detected that there's 3 other instances of this change. It will automatically change all 3 by holding down the Option key or Alt key. And now all of these are changed. So it's that easy to go in and change an entire sequence. So I share this with you because in talking to customers, and when we really found out what they wanted to do, they didn't want to go into After Effects and create all this stuff. They just want to be able to modify it at any time. Another way to really get a good idea of what these things do is look at all the free ones we give you. So a lot of them are boring. So the really good ones are when you go to Adobe Stock and you just hit the free button. When you hit the free button, we have 38 pages of free. That sounds great to me. And then as I start going through some of these, I want to look at some of these and see what they do. You just sort of drag and drop them. That'll go up to Adobe Stock. It might take a second. Download that. Now I sort of have this sort of crazy looking thing that somebody's done, and I come over here and I'm like, okay, what did you allow me to do? You allowed me, you've got a couple different layers there. They didn't give me a whole lot of control on this one, a little bit of roll and stuff, so that one's not as good. But you'll find some where there's options about this long that they allow you to do. It's pretty crazy. Now, one of the things I wanted to share with you, yeah, please, go ahead. You can. You just put it on and just go back and forth. It'll give you the animation. I will say the animation to me is not as precise as it needs to be. It kind of jumps like 5 or 10 frames. It doesn't give you a nice, because sometimes you need to know what's going on with that, just to be honest. So let's look at this one. This is a really good example. Oh, I should show you what this video is, just to give you an idea of what we're doing with the data. So this is a good friend of mine creates these videos. So let me just show you what it does.
Back to the future, too fast to be tardy. My lady flies Barbie, straight vixen. Never tripping on my addiction. Now we picking up steam, yeah.
Okay, it's an awesome video. We could watch it all day. So Frankie Zapata's, riding his personal drone. I don't even know what you call that thing. I just know I want one. He was actually on TV the other day, sort of showing that for Bastille Day, I think it was. So what I wanted to do is say, okay, I'm going to do a motion graphics template for this. And we have a new feature that we've really made it pretty easy to use. So you'll see here, if I just zoom in, Frankie's flying pretty high up. By the way, this is all real. There's no CG here. This is all real. So Frankie's flying up, and was asking Devin. I was kind of like, hey, when you were out filming this is an 8K project he was working on, shot on red, and it's like, how was the speed affected by the temperature of the desert? Because sometimes you shot in the morning, sometimes you shot in the afternoon. So I thought that would make an interesting way to look at a graphic. So I made a motion graphics template that we put together, and I'm just going to right mouse click and scale to frame size. So now I've got this, and what it'll do is it'll show, the miles per hour and the temperature of the desert, and maybe there's a relationship there, but there's not. I made it up. But what I wanted to show was, to make things easier, we wanted to allow spreadsheet data that someone on the third floor, an analyst, that's all this guy does, is just spreadsheet data in a room by himself next to the accountant. And we're the video guy, but what After Effects people have to do all the time is they have to look at data and they have to figure out, what does it say? And then you got to go have a meeting, and it's like, okay, well, this represents, at a Formula One, the velocity, and all these things, and they really have to strain, and it's a lot of conversations to figure out, does this look right? And they go back and forth with the people with the data. So we came up with this thing in After Effects a number of releases ago, called data-driven graphics. It basically says, take data, take a spreadsheet, and just apply that to keyframes automatically and make things happen. Okay, we've had that works great. So then we had the Mogert people, that, the editors in Premiere, that says, hey, we need to use that data. We've got, voting coming up in 2020. Again, this is great for sports, obviously for this. How do I take this analytical data that comes off of spreadsheets and put it into a graphic? So we now allow you to drag and drop, our first drag and drop ability for Mogerts. And here it is, but I'm going to browse over here, and I'm going to just grab an Excel spreadsheet. And you see it's automatically replaced that with, Dan's place, 34 miles an hour, and the temperature is almost 200. So that sounds like Vegas in August. So what I can do is let's just fire up Excel, because I guarantee you didn't think you'd be seeing Excel tonight. So if I come over here and let's go to here. Absolutely. It's all how you wire it up. That's correct. And all the formulas and everything that it's doing, we don't. So I'm going to come over here, and I'll just type in SBBP, and let's just come back in here and say 65 miles an hour, maybe 77. These are hex values, by the way, from Photoshop, which is kind of cool. You can have a spreadsheet. You can change the colors. Now, here's what's really happening. I'm the editor, and I don't really know any of this stuff. I don't want to know what's going on. I just want to know that when I'm in Premiere, all I got to do is know where the graphic needs to go, and that's it. Because if the data's wrong, it's not the editor's fault. If there's a misspelling, it's not the editor's fault. So we're working with you. So if I come over here, you can sort of see that they've allowed me, with the controls within After Effects, this is just, position controls, and in some cases, rotation control, rather. So if I come in here, I've just sort of set this up inside of After Effects, and you don't have to figure out how to make that control. We do that for you. Notice that I cannot change the color. I cannot change the font. So it is also a way for the After Effects person to protect branding, which in a lot of cases is really important, that the editor can't change any of that, because there's a whole line of people that's what they do. So anyway, I want to share that with you, because I think that is pretty unique. Yes?
Oh, so you can have it animating up to the value?
Yeah.
So with the basic idea.
I mean, the playback's pretty good, by the way. So this is a 4K project, by the way. It was 8.
Template that has, you're choosing certain parameters that the editor can edit directly in Premiere.
That is absolutely correct. So, well, I have After Effects closed, but when you're inside of After Effects, you saw how I dragged up position. let's say that you wanted to use rain, snow, red giant, some effect. Third-party plugins are fully supported as well, so long as you can get to them in Premiere, by the way. So Premiere has access to a lot of those red giant plugins, and you can have those parameters to control the lens flare or some explosion or lighting something on fire. You can go in there and just control the rise of the flame or whatever you're looking for. So a lot of people are producing Mogurts. Also, by the way, I've got one customer that uses Maxon a lot, and he's starting to use Maxon with Mogurts and working on some pretty interesting things that he's doing. So I think you're going to see this expand, which is going to be pretty cool. So yeah, I've been pretty excited about that. Okay, a couple of quick things, and then we'll try to get to some questions. So a couple things I wanted to point out. In this version, again, we're trying to make things easier to use. A lot of feedback coming back, one of which was when you guys are working on color, we want this ability to have LUTs all in a normal place. So LUTs are all under the basic tab. All of my creative looks will be under the creative tab. So there's two different places where you go to look. I do have a YouTube channel that will tell you where to put those things if you want to manually dump a bunch in there. Pretty easy to do. But the real work that was done was really done with this ability to say, well, I want to have my scopes open up here all the time. And I've already applied a LUT here. So let me just rename this LUT. No big deal there. But I'm going to go ahead and stack Lumetri effects and never have to go over down to the timeline or over to the effects window. I'm just going to say, let me add a Lumetri effect. Let me rename this one Water as a reminder to myself. So now if I just came in here, and I'll just brighten this up just for time. But I can go in here at any time and say, I can turn the LUT off. I can go in and I can turn the water off. It's, again, not a huge deal, but it's efficiencies that we're going for. So we're really starting to rework a lot of these types of things. So let me just pop in and show you a couple other quick examples here. So another one is we went in and we sort of decided nobody really understands curves when you're talking about color wheels and all this on a global scale. There are certain people that this is what they do. But if you sit there and you watch a bunch of editors, and I don't care if you're in DaVinci, Final Cut, Avid, or Premiere, all you're going to do is watch the person grab the icon or the dot, and they're just going to move things around until they feel better. They really have no idea what's going to happen with the direction that we all agree, right? So unless you live and breathe color all the time. So what we decided to do was to take the color wheel, sort of like this, and we just turned it on its side. So you're looking at the color wheel this way. And what that allowed us to do was to do things like, okay, if I want to come in here and I want to do hue versus hue, so color versus color, I can grab a color picker, click on the red. You'll see down here that I can recenter that circle. I'm just going to click on it. I know exactly how to get to blue. I know exactly how to get to green. There's no real guess. It's pretty easy. And I can go ahead and play this out. You know, performance is really, really good these days. So if I come over here and I pull this out, I can start to get more of that blue in there. But, you know, it works on a number of other different levels. So if I come over here and I say, you know, for color and light, so hue versus luma, I can come over here, click on the grass, for example, here, maybe here. And if I just want to make the grass, wrong one, sorry. If I want to make the grass lighter, I just pull on it, or darker. Pretty easy, right? And the response is pretty good. So now I've sort of created this fake snow that I kind of have on the ground, and just kind of wind that back and sort of see what that looks like. Kind of noisy there, but you sort of get the idea. That's pretty cool. And we've done that for all of the different settings here. So if I come over here and I sort of look at this sky, and I'm like, well, I want to be able to take, you know, sort of this light, dark, and saturation. I can click on, you know, some of the clouds over here, and I can sort of increase saturation. So now I'm pulling, I know it might be hard to see, but I'm pulling that blue out on there, and it probably pulls the blue out back in this sort of rear shot. So anyway, take a look at some of that. A lot of work has been done on that. A couple other quick things. I had a lot of people asking me questions about features and things tonight. We love to get feedback. Obviously, if you get a hold of one of us on the field team, let us know. But the best way to do that is just to go to help, provide feedback. And there are a group of kids that must like Linux, because that's getting votes all the time, Linux version of Premiere. A lot of people want Blackmagic Raw. We are definitely working on that. I will just give you a little secret. We've completed the work on ProRes Raw, so stay tuned. Very excited about that. Again, working pretty close with Apple. So lots of people want ProRes Raw. They want all these different things. So you see all the votes that are applied to here. Go in and search for the thing you want for your idea. See if there's anything there. If so, vote for it. If something's close to what you want, vote for it, but feel free to put in another one. The team reviews this list, because there's an active list, and it's someone's job full-time to come up with a report every day, sort of figure out which one's in the lead, and we add those features, which is why I give you a little sneak peek with ProRes. A lot of people asking for that. We're like, you know what, let's just get it done. So we do these things called JDIs, just do it, and one of the just do it's that we just did was to add rulers and guides. This is one that was very hot before. Not a very complex thing to do. It does take a little bit of time for an engineer to design that, and they want to take it one extra step, which is let me share this with After Effects, let me manage guides, let me save these things, import them, export them. So there's a whole workflow for that. So not that it's that big a deal, but at the same time, it's the little things and efficiencies that count that may make you, and especially with this one, by the way, when you're dealing with 9:16 video and all these other types of things, and you've got graphics people that want these things exactly where they need to go. One that I'm excited about personally, I did the majority of the work on this, is external GPU. We've supported this on Windows for a while. It actually works pretty good on Windows, but you got to be very careful with your drivers. So you got a desktop driver and a mobile driver. I will say, how many people on Mac tonight? So on the Mac users, your job is way easier because it's all plug and play, meaning that we know Apple definitely controls a lot of the environment. In this case, it is a fantastic thing because if you're running the latest version of Mac OS, this one came out today or yesterday, I think. So 10.14 has a lot of work done with GPU. And eGPU connectivity with Thunderbolt 3, and Thunderbolt 3 is a requirement. I have a YouTube video, you just search D Helmly on YouTube, you'll find me. But I did try to make a 5-minute video. By the way, I'm not paid to do these videos. I just do them on the weekend to keep myself sane. I've got, now this is why I can ask anybody that knows me. I get whatever computer I ask for. It just magically shows up. I'm purposely keeping this older one for a little while yet. And it's a 2017. It was cool a while ago. So the reason is because I was doing a ton of this testing on eGPU, and I wanted to make sure that we could figure out what was going on. And before this 13.1 release, we were hitting the internal Intel graphics way too much. And it was actually taking away from what the internal Radeon was doing. At this point, I haven't connected the external GPU. So now what we've done is we shut off the Intel one. It was just actually causing a bottleneck, and we're hitting this graphic just without eGPU much, much harder. We're hitting that at 100%. And everybody loves to see things at 100%. So when I come in here and I connect my Sonnet box with my WX9100, you'll notice that it becomes primary graphics card, which means your playback is just automatically going to be better because I have a primary graphics card taking over. And you'll also notice that the Radeon's hitting at 100%, the 560 down here, and the Radeon up here haven't quite saturated it, which you don't want to saturate both unnecessarily, right? It just means you probably need a better graphics card, or in this case, you could actually put more stuff on it. So you have a little bit of headroom here, and we basically shut this one off. So this is an example of dual GPUs just working really hard. And if you watch the 5-minute video, you'll see that we took ProRes to H.264, 32 seconds versus 2 minutes and 21 seconds. So pretty good feedback from customers that they're very, very happy about external GPUs. So again, I just say the Mac guys are easy. You just plug it in. The drivers, even for this high-end graphics card, are already installed in 1014. It couldn't be easier. So that's what this one's all about, just external GPU. Now, another one that I worked on that I'm really proud to say, it only took me 5 years to convince engineering to do this one. But once I convinced them, they did it in one cycle, which is great. So it took them about 3 months to get it done. And this is one that when I was working with Devin on this video, again, this is an 8K project. Again, I just made it 4K for this demo. But this 8K project that he has up on YouTube has Warp Stabilizer applied to every single clip. You guys are familiar with Warp Stabilizer, right? So when Devin's done doing the edit that you saw, that long edit, about 3-minute video, and then he passes it down the line for someone to do some color or audio work, it took 90 minutes to open the project. Why? You're like, hey, what's going on here? Well, Warp Stabilizer saves all the motion data for all of those clips at 8K. Remember, that's the killer here, on the machine. So we don't save it to the project file, which is on shared storage, because then you get this thing called project bloat. If you guys remember, there was a while there where our project files were getting really big because we were saving lots of data. So I basically went to engineering and said, look, we can't have this. This is ridiculous. And you only do Warp Stabilizer once, right? Like once the clip is good, and just the way that Devin and his crew edit these YouTube videos, they don't go out and, like, a lot of people would be like, okay, well, you should just do that first, bake a new copy, right? Just render out another copy and that becomes your working copy. YouTubers absolutely don't work that way. Not all the ones that have 30 million subscribers. They are just in it and they're just going as fast as they can go to get those things up there. And they produce amazing content. Anybody work with a lot of well-known YouTubers? No? Well, I'll just tell you, do yourself a treat and watch how they edit and bring some Advil, because it does not have any practice to it that we're used to typically. They're very good at creating, but this is a perfect example where he would not come in and do a mark end out render, all these other things that he would do. They would just need something easier. So went to engineering, and let me just come over here and just apply something just so we get some change on the screen. I won't do anything too crazy. So I'll just come in here. Let me just put a blur or something on that. Gaussian blur. Okay, so now I've gone in here and you see I've got some effects. So what I had asked them to do was to say, look, what I think we need to do here is just allow anybody, when they're like, you know what, I am done with these files. You can select more than one file with this trick. Right mouse click and do render and replace. Now we've had render and replace forever, but it's really just there for dynamic link if you didn't know. It's there for After Effects. And I think it's very misleading because you think it's going to do what you want it to do, but what it was missing until now is this button here that says include video effects. So it essentially does a video mix down. So for those of you using Red Giant and all these other great plugins that are out there that are very complex, or you're stacking them on there, all you have to do is, pick your codec. I'd say, you know what, our finishing codec is going to be ProRes 422, and I'm going to click OK. What this is going to do is render this out. Now, by the way, if this takes an hour for whatever complexity you're doing on an 8, but that's okay. You only got to do it once, right? I don't have to worry about someone else opening up this project. So what it's going to do is it created a brand new asset, _rendered, and I've done this particular demo apparently 12 times. So if I come over here and I just say, okay, where are you? So I go, show me where that asset is. You'll notice it created a new asset. So now I'm done, I'm working, I don't ever have to worry with this ever again, but then someone comes back and says, hold on, what's happened to the focus on that? And they can go back and they can look and see, oh, you actually applied a Gaussian blur, go back and redo that. Then you got to go dig up the file and do this again. Or you can right mouse click, restore it unrendered. It will delete the asset in the bin, replace it over here, and reactivate all your effects. Because all that information lives within the project file as far as what we did. So efficiency, right? So that means that anytime when you think you're done with whatever effect that you need to do to a clip, go ahead and bake it in just by right mouse click, render and replace and do it. But always have that comfort that you can always go back and delete. Now, what we don't do, because there's a big internal debate about this, is I don't delete that file from my storage. So there's 12 copies of that one clip because there's this thought that says, and which I would like to be able to do, because I'm on your side, I'd like to be able to have another pop-up to let me have auditions of each one to figure out which ones I liked. So stay tuned. I'm trying to convince them of that one. But anyway, that's just another example of where we want to make things easier. We value your opinion. We come back and say, okay, let's talk about bottlenecks. And this was I couldn't have given you a better example of what that is. Freeform view is kind of interesting. I'll just touch on that, then I'll touch on one other thing, and then let's get some Q&A going with the panel. Let me just come over here. So our team worked on lots of different movies. You'll actually see a lot of our names in the credits. It's been really fun to work on things like Deadpool and all these other movies. We just finished Terminator, by the way, so the team's very excited about that. With that team, they're putting the finishing touches, all done in Premiere. Lots of other projects coming out. For those of you, by the way, that know Van Bedient down on our team down in Burbank, he's the one behind a lot of these new movies. So one of the features that Van worked on with Tim at Blur and some of the other guys, some feedback from Deadpool and into Terminator, was we would love this ability when you go in to look at all this footage. This is great for documentaries too, by the way, to be able to go in and rearrange these like slides. So we have this new thing called Freeform View that allows me to do just that. So I can, right mouse click, change the name of a clip shot. So I can come in here and say, well, this is going to be my hero shot here, and I'm going to have all these supporting clips while we're brainstorming and thinking. And especially for things like documentaries where I've got all sorts of different cameras coming from different things, I can have these views. I can also save these views by the bin that they're in. So each bin can have its own set of views and for brainstorming. And you'll see there's different label colors. You can select all these, drag them to a timeline, and then create timelines out of that. So again, that was feedback. The other thing I should mention, I know Van would want me to mention. So Van, I hired him, got about 6 years ago, 17 years at Avid. He's the guy behind this feature that we have, and again, he's a field guy, not an engineer. He's behind this new collaboration feature that we have for locked bins. So for my Avid editors out there, you have this great way of sharing projects with assistants and all that. We've had this for a couple releases in Premiere. It does not use the cloud. It's all on-prem, which is why the username is Monkey1 or EditBay1, whatever you want. And you'll see there's this little selection down here where it shows, if I can get that utility out of the way, red locks and green locks. So a green lock means I own this project, I'm the editor. I can click on this, turn it red, I lock myself out. That now is available. I'm in a read-only mode. Anyone else can go, like an assistant, can go in and edit on that. So we have this thing called master projects where I can go in here and create these additional shared projects. So the terminology of this is shared projects, not team projects. That's a whole different view. But shared projects allow multiple people with multiple tasks to edit between assistants and other people. And we're really starting to expand on this. There's a lot more work going on with shared projects. But again, that comes out of the Santa Monica development team down in Hollywood. So I wanted to share some of that with you.
Awesome. Could we,
So great.
I think we need to,
Yeah.
you know, Dave, I can tell everybody's riveted. Nobody wants them to stop talking, but
We're
we need
ready.
to do the panel and we're ready.
Yes,
So
we are.
let's do the Q&A and the panel combined.
Sure.
And then when we take a break after that, you can go out and get more demos and things like that.